Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day. We're going to take a look at the big news of the day. Everything is still in limbo, awaiting word out of the Fed and awaiting to see how the situation resolves or evolves in Ukraine with the Russia-Ukraine situation. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on. And if you did not catch this today, the big news of the day was the Fed's Bullard came out first thing this morning on CNBC, once again, bloviating on his thoughts on the economy, the Fed, and what they should do, shouldn't do. And the big issue is that he said that their credibility is on the line and needs to front load rate hikes. So he's been the most hawkish of all of the board members, has been very outspoken that they need to reverse course on policy, raise rates, eliminate bond purchasing, and tighten monetary policy at the Fed level. So he's been one of the most outspoken members, and it looks like the tide may be turning at the Fed, but we'll see. We have to wait and see what the results were, what the outcome is going to be, if anything at all. But if you didn't get to watch that, you should watch it. It was a pretty interesting interview. He used some very strong language and pretty much put the blame on Chair Powell. He said, the board all has differing opinions, and ultimately it's up to Powell what they do. So pretty interesting there how he came out with all of the talk and then put the ultimate blame and decision on Federal Reserve Chairman Powell. So we'll have to wait and see what the results are there. Of course, the other topic is Russia and Ukraine. Everybody is waiting on some sort of resolution there or some sort of an escalation. The markets are eyeing that situation, as we discussed the last couple of days. Markets are trying to somewhat price it in, but it wasn't a bad day altogether today. The markets were down. Dow was down as much as 1% today. NASDAQ was off 1.5%, came back, was positive for a little bit, but anyways, ended up closing down just about 0.25%. S&P was down about almost 0.5%. The Dow was down almost 0.5%. So pretty mild day. Markets are still kind of ranging a little bit, waiting for Fed decision, waiting for some sort of resolution or escalation in Ukraine. Let's take a look at Bitcoin and what I'm watching here. And just want to kind of share some thoughts. We've been talking about what to expect and what we can see, and maybe some fractals that Bitcoin may be following. This is Bitcoin on the daily. Of course, we had the weekly close. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of analysts out there. I try to keep the charts simple. I'll look at moving averages, things like that. I'll look at the technical analysis of others. Of course, your 200-day, your 50-day, 100-day, and 200-day moving averages. This is on the weekly, are obviously very important. Those are critical technical levels that you really want to keep an eye on different ranges and timeframes. Here it is on the daily. We are kind of playing with that 50-day moving average. The 100 and 200 are up here. We've got the 100 crossing the 200, and we looked at what happens when that occurs. A lot of times you get a little bit of a downward action. Of course, moving averages are lagging indicators, but pretty much anything you look at from a technical analysis standpoint, whether it's the RSI or MACD or any of that, it's always pretty much lagging indicators that match up with price action. So they don't really tell you a lot in terms of what is coming. They tell you, and let's just take a look at one right here while we're talking. Let's take a look at the MACD, and we'll take a look at that down below here on the daily. Let me get rid of this right here so we can look at it a little bit larger. And if you look at the MACD, you can kind of look at it and see what it's doing and look where it had similar price or similar action in the past and kind of get an idea or try to predict where it's going based on what it's doing. But it just basically follows price action. Again, these are all lagging indicators. So you could go back and look at it on the daily and see the last times that the MACD or the MACD was, in this situation. We can look at it on the weekly MACD, and it just basically follows price action, and you can kind of see where we are here in relation to where we were over at this June-July low. And we've been kind of tracking this area a little bit and looking at the fractals there. So we will take a look at what I'm seeing over here and what I've been watching. And this area here could kind of be something like what's happening here. So if you took a little bit of a fractal from this area here to here, and I've been talking about a retrace and what we're looking for, that could potentially be what that could look like. And to give you an idea of a time frame, this was 56 days. So where does that put us over here? 56 days to this point puts you out around April 11th. So somewhere over the next 50, month and a half, almost 2 months for a retrace kind of a standpoint. And if we looked at, obviously this is just a fractal representation of this price action right here, where Bitcoin came off the June, July low, popped up, had a little bit of a pullback. That was about let me see what that was there. That was about 11% pullback. So Bitcoin recently had a 10% pullback. So if you're following something like this, if Bitcoin is going to follow a fractal similar to that on the time frame, let's look at the Fibonacci retracement levels that we've been kind of tracking. We're talking about the 0.5 to the 0.618 of a retracement. That's kind of in that range, like I said, in that $55,000 range, 50 to 55,000. Somewhere for the retracement. It kind of follows along with that before it rolls over and then either continues further to the downside or could bounce, consolidate, and then continue on from there. But it seems like it's kind of following this pattern. Now, last time it consolidated and continued up. So I think Bitcoin may be following a similar type of pattern here into a consolidation range. And again, the geopolitical environment, global economic environment, and the Fed policy is going to greatly affect what happens here in the short term, in the near term, and whether or not we're going to run back down and test these lower levels here. If we do have conflict, if we do get an interest rate hike, we're going to get a little bit of a shock to the market where Bitcoin can come down, test this lower region again, and then move into that retracement. But I do not see, until we get resolution from the global front of conflict and Federal Reserve policy and guidance for at least the next quarter or couple of quarters, I don't think we're going to see much resolution, and definitely not going to see a run back into the all-time highs until we get more clear guidance in terms of where we're headed and what the Fed is thinking. If you look at the hourly chart and you look at some of the other assets in the market, price action on everything is looking pretty much the same here on the hourly. Pretty much all of the cryptos are doing basically the same thing as Bitcoin on the hourly. A couple of them are down. Crypto.com way down after the Super Bowl. Like I said, this was your buy the rumor, sell the news event here, and sell the news came in right up in this area here over, I don't know, that was the 10th of February. So buy the news up in this area, or buy the rumor, sell the news. Had a little bit of a pop yesterday before the Super Bowl, then it dropped straight off again. And some of the rest of the altcoins are kind of retracing this whole range here. If you look at Solana, it's retracing this last range low of 81, popped up to 122, retracing back. So this is kind of the world that we're in right now as these assets work their way down into the lower levels of consolidation before we get back to another run to the all-time high. You can look through a lot of these altcoins, especially a lot of the top, larger cap altcoins. They're all kind of retracing those recent bounces that we've seen over the last few weeks. And then when you go look at these on the daily, this is Sushi Swap here, you can see a lot of these are just unwinding these levels that they were at, and some of them had already hit their all-time high. So all we can do right now is watch and wait and see what the Fed does, not what they say, but what they actually do, and see what happens and develops on the global geopolitical front with Russia and Ukraine. Until then, all we can do is wait and just be prepared either way for which direction things go. Like I said, I don't see a whole lot of upside unless the Fed just comes out completely dovish and says, we're not going to do anything right now, given the environment that we're facing with potential conflict abroad from a global perspective, war. And with if they feel like the economy is weak for some reason, and they don't feel like raising interest rates will do anything to impact or affect inflation. So if the Fed comes out completely dovish and says, we're not going to do anything, well, then we could see a run for all-time highs again in the markets and in crypto. If not, then we're definitely going to see a little bit more downside, a little bit more correction, ultimately find the bottom of where we're going, get through all this, then we can be back off to bull market on and some of those higher levels. So we'll keep an eye on things, and I will see you on the next video.